Everybody, I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
And so, beloved ones, we greet thee, 'tis Alcazar. And it is indeed a great honor for us to be here with you in this moment of your time. And so as we talk to you, we also invite you to simply relax. For as we talk here, it is not just words that we are sharing with you. It is a level of understanding, an energetic that explains more perhaps than the words themselves. And so, as has already been said, you have indeed come from the stars. Your scientists tell you that the universe is expanding, rapidly expanding. But, beloved ones, consciousness is also expanding in your universe. Consciousness expands in a different way. There are, as we have called them, many civilizations, enlightened, you would call them in your language. There are many enlightened civilizations who are ancient and beyond ancient on your human timescale. They have moved through the process that humanity is going through right now, a process of awakening, a process of becoming more aware of who you are and why you are here. And they moved through this process. They reached that state that you call enlightenment and have evolved beyond that. And when a society reaches that level, they are given the opportunity, they are asked to assist in bringing consciousness to another planetary civilization. And it is in this way that the consciousness expands throughout the universe. And so it was the Pleiadians, as many of you know. The Pleiadians were tasked with bringing consciousness to the human form here on your beautiful earth. And this happened many, many centuries ago. And you will hear more of this in a moment. But understand that the gateway, so to speak, for souls to come from these other civilizations, this gateway was opened by the Pleiadians. And so many have come from the Pleiades, but also many of you have come from a variety of civilizations from around your universe. Why? Because, beloved ones, each one of these planetary civilizations have a different experience, a different reality. And so, as you come from all these different places, you are bringing different experiences. And so you came here, you volunteered, you were chosen, and you came to this earth with some understanding about how it was going to be. You came and you agreed that you would forget after a while where you had come from. You would bring the knowledge, the wisdom, and you carry it within. And you would move down into unconsciousness. And from that place of unconsciousness, you would begin to work your way back up into awareness. And that is what is happening here now. That is what has been occurring over the last generations. A waking up, a deciding that you no longer wish to operate from fear, from negativity. You wish to start living in love, living in consciousness. You are ready for something new.
And so you see, beloved ones, the star seed within you is not just that you come from the stars. You come from enlightened civilizations in the stars. You come from vastly different civilizations with different focuses, wisdom, knowledge, experiencing. Many of you can feel this within already. Many of you were drawn to participate in this particular starseed journey because you have had that taste of your consciousness, your true awareness, your superconscious connection to all that is. And so we give you this image of opening to the starseed within, being about accessing far more than you have accessed before. That is what we are wishing to share with you at this time, because, beloveds, it paints a far different picture of what is happening here on the earth at this time. You see the chaos around you, yes? Hold on, because it is just beginning. This is what happens when you lift out of centuries of unconsciousness. There has to be this total collapse of the old ways. But it is our message to you this day that where you are going is far more beautiful than you can possibly imagine right now. But when you connect energetically to where you have been, you can start to see the potentials. And they are far brighter than perhaps you think.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are 3 sections and 3 channelings, 3 energy-specific areas of today. This one is all about origins. I want to identify the 3 that I'm going to speak of and how in a moment. But when you speak of origins, where did you come from? We have spoken so many times the truth that has been also given to you from the information which comes from the other side of the veil that you've just heard. I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say that you are mainstream. You're not esoteric. Let's say you're not indigenous. You live in this country like everyone else does, doing what you do. You go to work, you come back, you have children. Let's say you don't necessarily buy into all of these ideas that we speak of. So let me ask you this. Where were you told you came from? And the answer is this. Most of you, billions of you, have been told a story. And it's a story you will tell your children. And the story is this, that once upon a time, a long time ago, humans were minding their own business, being humans, and an angel appeared. And that angel then did something and changed something, depending upon the story you hear all over the planet. The angel gave you a choice, because suddenly the angel and all that was with that angel changed you. Some say that's when you got your soul, in that Garden of Eden experience, that metaphor for the earth, that angel, that metaphor for God, for spirit. Something happened to the human being that was spiritual. Now that is the story that you learned. It is not that different, dear ones, from the esoteric story that we are saying today. What if that angel was a little different than you thought? Many of you who have studied esoterics, have heard the future, know what an ascended planet means. It's an idea that says that consciousness will grow, and that someday it may grow to such an extent that you will be in touch more with that soul's spiritual energy. And when that time comes, there will be peace on earth, a whole different paradigm of thought, perhaps even consciousness over physics, a planet, perhaps 1,000,000 years from today, this beautiful earth will grow up and go from what it is today, which is a beginning children's version of what you will become someday, and have some of these angelic abilities just like the masters did of the planet. They came and they showed you what they could do. Angelic they were. So, follow the thought for a moment. Let's say as this ascended planet starts to reach out to some other planets that are just having their beginnings, that you go there in ascension status and you go there to help them, perhaps plant seeds of what you know. You're compassionate, you're nurturing, you're beautiful, you're esoterically enhanced, perhaps even multidimensional. That's the human being 1,000,000 years from now. How will you be seen by a beginning society? They'll look at you and they'll say, you're an angel. Angels, dear ones, came here from ascended planets not that long ago to plant seeds. And that is what I want to show and tell now. The metaphor of planting seeds is going to be the 3 sections of what I will speak of. The seeds that were planted, the star seeds that were planted, are just like when a planting happens from a farmer of a forest. The seeds are there. They're special seeds. They're always alive. They always have the spiritual knowledge. They always have enlightenment in those seeds. And they're planted, let's say, in the forest of humanity. And there they sit. The next section, and when I come back, we'll be talking about what happens when they got watered. And that was in 2012. And then the third section we're going to call self-pollination. What happens with the trees, dear ones, when they start growing finally, is they start to release those things which create more trees. In other words, I think you see the metaphor. The seeds will come out and start to grow, and they will create, for the first time, more seeds. The seeds represent high consciousness, knowledge, compassion, nurturing, benevolence in consciousness. The seeds are a new consciousness of humanity. Those are the seeds, reflected from those who planted them all that time ago. Dear ones, you're in a special time, and when we come back, I want to talk about that special time. But for now, know this, that even the basic children's stories that you hear have you coming from an angelic source. And indeed, you did. And so it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. For those listening later, make no mistake that this is a red letter day. That's an expression that is used in the culture of my partner to say this day is unusual, to be remembered and special. This is the first time that my partner has faced off, meaning face to face, with others in the room during the energy of a Kryon channel. It makes a difference, dear ones, to those listening mostly. The energy that is developed in a channel, in a meditation, or even profound teachings has a consciousness which is a multidimensionality that can go anywhere, even off planet, dear ones. We have told you this before. Science has given evidence of it with entanglement, that consciousness and multidimensional energies of these kinds can go around the world. Not only that, they can do it after the fact, even when listening. That is the timelessness of the profound messages of Spirit. It echoes what consciousness of benevolence truly is. When you take a look at that and analyze that which you would call benevolence, that which you would call any of the words that you've used in the past, which are those spiritual words which you describe that which you feel at the cellular level when you step into this energy. Now, stepping into this energy is the key. Every single human being has free choice. And the free choice is to cognize or not. When you listen to these words, is there an energy with it or not? Is there benevolence? Is it a compassionate presentation? Does it have what we would call the third language or not? Now, the third language has nothing to do with that which you would say is third in line from one. Indeed, the third language is a description of what the three means in so many systems of numerology. It's an energy of transmission, a message, which is a catalyst, perhaps, of many other things. So when you would be in this energy, dear ones, of channeling and listening and sitting, there may be other messages being delivered to you simultaneously to the one that is in English, or even the one that's being translated now in other languages. So this is the energy you have the choice to step into or not. The free choice, even from those who are spiritually minded, often is based on what you've been taught. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? There is no right or wrong in any of these things, for free choice for many will still take them to the best information their own way. First thing we would do is to acknowledge that there are so many differences in cultures and attitudes and teaching, that so many will find the same spirit and never listening to a channeling. And others will go right to it, understanding that that is their Akash, and this is what their lineage is here, and as old souls they want to hear it. It's an odd time, dear ones, is it not? As we meet with you in August, after 4 months of not being with any human beings at all on the other side of the message in person. My partner buzzes with excitement that this is indeed possible and is able to be done, even in a limited way, this day, at this time. Let's talk about the virus. Not the virus per se, but let's talk about something that you may or may not have noticed. There have been a lot of viruses come and go in your lifetime, in modern days. That which you call the Hong Kong flu took more lives than this one. Did you notice? And yet it was not a shutdown of the planet now, was it? All of these that came and went, you never had what you have today. This leads to the speculation, of course, of conspiracies. It leads to the speculation of why now and what's controlling it and all of these things. What if I told you that there is intervention? And the intervention is not governmental, dear ones. The planet has been stopped for a little while. Just for a little while. And that was on purpose, and it had to happen after 2012. The planet has been stopped. I want you to look at this for a moment. almost every one of the attributes that you are having right now due to this virus would be as though a major war had broken out on the planet. You can't go anywhere. You cannot travel from country to country. Even the mail has been stopped in certain cases. It sounds a whole lot like what you had in some of the last large wars. Your economy seems to be in shambles. It is not, but it seems to be. All of this is frightening, creates great anxiety, but more than that, it takes so many to zero in their thinking. What's next? What do I do? Because I can't go here. I can't go there. I can't do what I normally do. I cannot support my family the way I'm used to it. What do I do next? Then there's the hand-wringing. Then there's the fear. Many at this time turn to that which is their spirituality, and they never would before. Safe to say, and we know, tens of millions, if not more, starting to seek out that which they intuitively feel is their helper for now. Something that they didn't do on a regular basis because they were just a little too busy. And now they can. Not only can they, there are some who will go to that place which is their solace and their meditation, and they'll find something that they didn't know was there. They didn't remember perhaps was there. An alliance with the Creator. Now I say alliance because that is the key word, the creative energy that put you together, your soul, your life, your humanism, your consciousness, your akash, is what you call God. And there are so many who would teach you that this is apart from you. It's an energy you worship apart from you. You dress up and you go to a building like this one. And it's presented to you in a way that says it's somewhere else. And you hook to it for a day or so, or maybe even an hour or so. But it's temporary, isn't it? Because that's the training. You see, God's out there and you're in here. And if you look around, dear ones, you'll find that is the modality of God. In the modern world, the third world, perhaps not, but the first world, absolutely. You've been trained and taught. You change, you dress up, you go, you be, you kneel or not. And that's where you meet that part of you, which is the Creator. And then when that's over, you go home. You take off those dressings. And that, dear one, is not the way it is, and you know better. It's also not what's taught in this room. We're at Unity Village. I'm going to talk about that in my next channel. Yes, Myrtle, I will tell them the truth. You don't know what you don't know. But for now, for all those listening, we are in a sacred place, a place built for high consciousness, a place that has underlying secrets that over 100 years ago were starting to be revealed and are here today for you to see. I'll get there. You'll see. That's the next channeling. But for now, those with free choice and go to that place, the draw to zero for help, it's time for them to awaken to a new cognizing of who you are. You are part of the creative source. You are that which has been loosely translated as a child of God. Now that is a metaphor. And if you've looked into that, it's a metaphor that is filled with love and compassion and a direct message to you. What do you do for your kids? What are they to you? If the metaphor, if you are a child of God, what is a spirit or a creative source? would do with you? And the answer is love you beyond measure. Would know your name all their lives. If God had a life like yours, your name would be on the lips of God till the last breath. Because your children are the same. Some of you, and you know who I mean, who've lost children before their time, their name will be on your lips in your last breath. You'll never forget that which came from your loins, your DNA. That is your child. And then here comes the message of old, very, very long ago, that said, you are a child of God. What does that mean to you? And here's what it could mean. Your DNA is the same as the Creator. Your DNA may have actually come from the stars. You're not what you think. You're not what you were told. You are far more magnificent than anything, any system has ever been able to teach you. And when you start to cognize that, everything starts to change. And the anxiety starts to lessen because you know that your name is known by the Creator and things will get better and can get better. But if you go into anxiety and fear, you start your own biological shutdown and they get worse. Your body wants to know that God loves you. Did you hear that? Your chemistry wants to know that your name is known by the Creator right now. For those who are listening, who are in trouble, that is the message of the day. Is that you're not alone. And that God is not outside looking down. You are inside with the Creator, experiencing this simultaneously. That which you call God, that which you call the compassionate energy of creation, lives in you in every cell at some level, because that's your soul. The soul is eternal, and almost every belief system on the planet acknowledges that. Did you realize that? No matter what the belief system is, it has you existing after death. What does that tell you? There is a full acknowledgement that the soul is eternal. Some even go so far as to say it was here before you got here, including those who had the first intuitive spiritual system on the planet, the Hindu. Dear ones, there's so much to look at here, but when you're busy, you don't see it. What if the planet is stopping to allow a collection of old souls to start claiming their lineage when they didn't know they were old souls? And that means that they will start cognizing that there's something grander here. And what would that be for? They would say, okay, I'll grant that maybe there was intervention and maybe the world has stopped and maybe this is something new, but what's to be gleaned from that? What is the purpose? And the answer is evolution of consciousness. When the old souls of this planet start to understand who they are and why they're here and why they're the gender that they are, all the things we talked about of the shift in progress right now in your face, including the virus, has purpose. And this will raise the consciousness of the planet. Kryon, you're crazy. Have you seen the news lately? Some kind of a raising of consciousness, huh? And I'll tell you, dear ones, you got to take some baby steps and some things got to break before you're going to fix them. And they may have appeared to be broken for a long time, but this time you're going to see solutions. It's time. What if the world was put here so the darkness can show and the solutions can start to be developed by old souls and mature minds, so that when you come out of this, things will start to change? What if this is a time where things start exposing themselves that never would have exposed themselves before? With time for you then to fix it. And then there are those, they say, well, Kryon, what about politics? And the answer is the same as I've always said before. These changes in consciousness are going to be seen slowly, and you will see it in your politicians, not now, but through the cycles that you have and have set up. You will start to see those starting to run for office that are far more benevolent to each other than you've ever seen before. You won't see that yet, because everyone involved at this moment is still deeply entrenched in the old energy. Slaughter the other one, so you will be first. That is dripping with old energy of survival and has nothing to do with compassion. But it will. You'll see. There'll come a day when you will judge your candidates by how good they are to each other. Do you believe that? And you say, well, we're not in this country. You will see it. And when you do, and when you start to, they may not quite be as popular yet. They may be standouts. There'll be those who say, well, that politician, he's too much of a nice person. Or she is too much of a lovely woman to ever make a difference in this hard political arena, and suddenly you'll find they get elected. And you'll say, what's going on? Because a higher consciousness starts to honor compassion and kindness. Honor kindness. Can you believe that? What kind of kindness are you seeing right now? And the answer is not much. But that doesn't mean it's not coming. It's just going to take some time. But right now, there's a lot of thinking about it. Don't you find it interesting that this whole thing occurred at the crux of your election? What a coinky-dinky that is. It's all on purpose. You can take a look. Not just you, the world can take a look. What do you see you don't like? And for some of you, you will say, just about everything. We don't like what's going on our media. We don't like what's going on in our government on either side right now. It's broken. And in that case, I want you to sit and smile and say, bingo. You got it. It's all broken. It doesn't mean it's failed. It just means it's ready for fixing. And that, dear ones, is going to come from the old souls, like the ones sitting in front of me now, and their children and what they teach. Don't be fooled. I am talking about your soul. I'm not talking about the human with the name, because you're not done. Everyone in this room, everyone on stage will be back with a higher consciousness and continue what has started right now. Can you believe that to such a degree that you don't fear that which you would then call death? Because it will be appropriate on time, and the party will begin, just like it always did, only this time you return to a planet that's gone through the shift, and everything that may have bounced off a consciousness in the past will now start to be accepted. And that's the difference on this planet. Changes are afoot. You know they are. The virus is one of them. For those who are listening now, I sit in front of a group, a small group, who is in compliance with that which has been mandated for distancing and so on. That's all going away. But for now, it's important you realize truly what it might mean. When I come back in the next channeling, I'll talk more about where I sit and some of the revelations that happened so long ago that are now ripe for now. And so it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon. Here is a time that we have put aside for some questions and answers, and the little bowl that was out there. She has the little bowl. Now, this is Monika. Come on up. not only is she going to draw some questions from the bowl, but I want her to be involved in some of the answers because, remember, she is the archivist of the Kryon work, and I told you that. And so many times...
I'm his brain.
That's correct.
Not really.
Many times I will turn to her and say, do you remember when or what happened or was there more? In case those questions come up where we need. And then, of course, if there's any questions on nodes and nulls and stuff, I'll pass that to her or the things that she's been working on.
So, first question. In my dreams, I am almost always someone else. Am I dreaming about past lives?
Normally, when that happens, there really truly is an Akashic, something Akashic going on. Akashic is past lives. It would be that which is, Kryon says, is soul-based instead of body-based, which means that you have it when you leave. Kryon actually says it's kept on the earth, and when you come back, you pick it up and put it in your body. And yes, so if you constantly are dreaming about this, it's more than just the hero's journey that is talked about. I believe very fully that it is part of a past life experience. Now, I have actually had this kind of thing in what I will call recurring dreams. You all have aware that these things will come and go and be so familiar, and you'll be either put back in this thing. For a long time, when I was a young man, I can remember having the same dream which didn't relate to anything that I had gone through. And it was, every time it recurred, I questioned it in the morning and went, what is that? And why is that? And in each case, I was someone else. Now, what I realize now, and we haven't even discussed that, is the someone else that I was is who I am today. So I was getting inklings of the future. But remember retrocausality, and we discussed that? It's possible that we've come in not with contracts, with predispositions of perhaps what we're going to fulfill. Those of you who dream about better lives and joy and things of this nature can be like that. It's not necessarily something in the past, but something that is a potential. The Akash is not linear. That's the other thing that Kryon has said over and over. So a past life reader, for instance, is not going to read you years and dates and lives and as much as energy that you've experienced. And that is, if you're talking about energy and retrocausality, wow, you could be reading potentials, things that partially happened last time, but those are real dreams. So I love the interpretation of dreams because a dream interpreter will tell you what it means, and it usually is a metaphoric for something very important in your life, and quite often it's quite positive. You're not doing your job. Get another question.
Well, I was contemplating whether to add something or not.
Sure, you can add something.
But dreams are fascinating, the whole subject of dreams, and Kryon has even spoken about the different layers of dreams with the biological reason and then the reorganizing the memories in the brain reason. But I also did a dental decoding program with Dr. Fabian Brotos, who talks about dreams as well, and his interpretation is that dreams, when you start looking at the clock, the dreams you have up until, I think he said it was around 3 a.m., are he described it like this: it's an upload program into the cloud, and then when you wake up in those hours 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., those morning hours, this is a download program from the cloud to you to resolve your conflicts in life. So everyone has a different way of working with dreams, and Michelle is trained in shamanism, and shamanism is all about symbology, and that's why Michelle says don't look at dictionaries, because your own personal symbology is personal to you, and when you start a dream journal, you get your own messages to yourself. But I just found the piece of the puzzle that Fabian had was very interesting. If you start thinking of dreams having an upload program and then a download program. So who knows, if you started paying attention to that now, you may start interpreting your dreams differently.
Well, I don't think we've ever had a dream question, so that's fascinating. I like it.
Yeah. Next question is, what can we do to assist the new and clearly evolved children that would be labelled as special needs, that feel no need for verbal language?
This is tough. We're talking about autism mostly. There's many layers of autism, and there's functional, non-functional, but the ones that I think that question addresses is a question that Kryon has discussed a little bit about. And he says that a fully autistic human being, it's almost like the linear connections in their brains are not there. And Kryon went on to say, and they are not abnormal. They are an example of where you are going. And so what he meant by that was that you speak in linear ways and they don't. They react to our linearity, and it's extremely frustrating. They don't want to put words in a row. They react to being touched. It's very, very 3D. And so you may be looking at a savant. You may be looking at the future. How to treat them, that is so... I haven't spent time with autistic, and especially the children. My heart goes out to those who have, especially if you have one. It's tough. And what Kryon has said, that they respond to love, and they respond in a way that is not just say, love them. It says there is response. In other words, if you start working with care and love and these things, they come around, and actually you can learn their language eventually. The language of intuition, perhaps. The language of emotions, perhaps, that is not linear at all. How do we communicate in a non-linear way? I don't know, but I think it's coming. It's not really an answer of what to do except to love them and to work the puzzle perhaps differently. But you're looking at the difference between us and them being, we are linear and they are not. And the idea that that may be the future you're looking at, it may be evolution. That may be the next consciousness step, a gradual dropping of that which is linear so that we can start working with the multidimensional brains that we have.
I think that's a beautiful answer, love. And when you look at a human as though they are whole, instead of us looking at someone who is broken, there is no broken in any human. And that's what I think your whole essence of your answer was.
Well, when I talk to the parents too, and I say, when is it peaceful for you? When is there no problems? You know, when are the frustrations at the lowest? And almost all of them have said, late at night, not when we're sleeping, but when we are just looking at one another and we're quiet. And I say, well, there may be a way to start there and see if we can learn from them.
Next question is that after one lifetime in Lemuria, who was in other places to have the next life? And then there's a question about time babies.
You know, the whole Lemurian puzzle, if you want to say, is explained in the Women of Lemuria book as far as what happened and the timing. And it's filled with minutiae that Kryon has given of how all of that worked. So it's tough to give us a soundbite to tell you, you know, what that is. But basically, if I could say, number one, the Pleiadians, according to Kryon, landed in many places, probably most of the nodes. And that Lemuria was special only because it was totally and completely isolated. And that created a phenomenon in the isolation that may not have happened on the other nodes. And that is, you got one lifetime in Lemuria, and then when you reincarnated, it was anywhere else on the planet. Anywhere else meaning somewhere else. We don't know where. But you only had the one lifetime in Lemuria, and then the next time it would be starting to populate the planet, basically with the knowledge in your Akash that you were taught. The core knowledge was like given to you, and then you were released. He doesn't talk much about the other nodes and what might have happened in the other nodes, but you get the impression that because they were not isolated, that you would reincarnate and maybe even try to get back to the node. It's tough to know. These are not necessarily minutiae items that we are fully aware of, except that one that is so fascinating is that you only have one life in Lemuria. Now, the thing that is to put it into a whole nother bag of, if you want to say, of confusion, is the whole idea of the sisterhood. Kryon has now given almost 100 channels there. And what he talks about is how they may not have ever known each other, because in the thousands of years that they spent that one lifetime learning, they had no concept of one another. They might not recognize each other. The Akash is not working for them to recognize each other, except they will all remember being there as though they were together. Because the teaching there was so, I would say, sacred and so pure that it sticks. And then we come to Myrtle, yet again, co-founder of this place. 1800s, did it stick so much that she opened her Akash and out came everything she'd ever learned in such a pristine way that it's so pure. It's almost like she came right from Lemuria, came here, opened that bag that she learned, and then plopped it right in front of everybody and said, this is the way to do it. I love that. Some things are there in our Akash, no matter how many lifetimes we've had or where we went, that will always be there. And I think that is kind of what we're getting at here. It doesn't really matter where we went or how it worked, and the minutiae is not all that important. A lot of people like to have it. But that it's imprinted so grandly that when it's time to pop out, it starts being remembered. That's what the sisterhood is about. Women who are starting to remember their shamanism, the things that they were taught, their power, the core truths, what to do with them. And that's not the women's movement. It's not to demonstrate. It's to start using it in a way that's going to help their families, each other, and eventually the planet. And that's what the classes are all about.
Okay, next question is, I understand we are basically in 3 dimensions. Are we making progress toward the 5th dimension?
Oh boy, I love this one. Did you get that one? We're in 3D. Are we making progress toward the next one? What is the next one? Okay, you can't say 4. We were in 3 until Einstein came along. And he said, oops, time is 4. Well, now we're into 5. There is a fallacy here for you to recognize. Number 1, multidimensionality is not 3D. We are in 4 of the multitudes, and so our perception is what we call ourselves. We say we are in 4D. We say 3, but we are in 4D. The reality, we are all sitting in all of the dimensions and always have been. Consciousness then creates awareness. And so Kryon has said, when you see those who can then do these things and have the gifts and all that's there, or have whatever the special stuff, they are already working in a multidimensionality. And they are then using those things, and they're yours too. Why don't you then, Kryon says, and, get with it. What has been presented so many times is that the evolution of consciousness truly is opening ourselves to the multidimensionality that we already have. And that now, in this time, there are tools, things are happening, the nodes and the nulls, that give allowance for this. And the thing that I always look at is the humanism of change often gets in the way, even for an old soul who now is starting to perceive things they never could before, awarenesses. Some of them shut it down. Are you aware of that? Because it is simply too frightening. And there's change. And there's the idea that they're now broken because they can do these things, or they don't tell anybody about it. And that is also it's human nature at the point where we're measuring human nature right now, to be frightened of these changes, especially when they've never occurred before. Where I sit in front of old souls, and I'll tell you, when I am in the hallway or other places and we're doing these things in meetings, I get all kinds of questions, and sometimes people will take me aside and tell me what's going on, and they're scared spitless. that they're seeing stuff. And I'm saying, welcome to who you are. Don't let it frighten you, because you're becoming a whole person. What if we're all supposed to see stuff in a way that's not frightening? Seeing stuff that helps us along our way. Seeing or having intuitions, for instance, that we never had before. Now, tomorrow, for instance, in this room we have Marilyn and Joy, and they're teaching channeling. You might not see the connection here, but what they're really teaching you is how to get in touch with what you already have that you do not knowledge, which is fantastic intuitive powers. Those intuitive powers are ones that connect to your innate, they connect to your heart, they connect to your pineal, they connect to the other side of the veil, and you get stuff that you don't know that you had through an enhanced intuition. And why don't more people do that is because we're trained we can't. And so tomorrow is a study, not necessarily of how to channel, but how to use intuition in such a way that channeling then occurs. Do I have that right, girls? All right. And so it becomes a fun exercise. How do you get out of yourself? How do you break the barrier? And sometimes that's through fun and joy, the plurk shop whole idea, work and play. And I hope I'm not giving away the process, but the process truly is getting to a place where you are open enough to then start to understand there's more. And then be in a position where you can then practice it right away, that very moment. Kryon has a whole channel in joy, and he says this has an energy of health and abundance and forgiveness. It says if you can be joyful, almost all the ugly stuff is gone at that moment. When you can laugh, all the ugly stuff is gone at that moment. Don't you feel this way? Have you ever been depressed and when they watched a funny movie or something and came out of it and went, oh, that was so refreshing, I feel so much better now? You just got a healing that you gave yourself. So this is kind of the long answer to that one. Did I answer it?
Yes, you did, and now I have a long question.
Okay. What was did I really answer it? Was there more that I should?
It was about getting into 5D
I like
out of
that.
3D. So
Okay.
yes, very complete answer.
Okay. Oh, there's one more thing.
Oh,
Okay.
tell us.
Okay. When you're in 3D, you can count in a linear fashion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's linear. You got it? Okay. When you get out of 3D, you're not linear anymore. So counting becomes just one of the things you can do or used to do. Here's where I'm going. There is no such thing as 5D. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, all. Now, if you understand that logic, it doesn't matter. You can still say you're moving into 5D and everybody understands you're going to the next level. But I'm a nerd, remember?
So next question is, Carl Mollison says he channels the Creator. Recently he said that Creator is going to destroy human life and start all over again if humans don't change the evil initiates and fallen angels through prayer. He said they have no souls, so that is why they enjoy taunting us and causing humans to do bad things. Is this true?
No, not from my standpoint at all. It is not true. It is not true from any moment that I ever had for 31 years with a loving entity that says you are a child of God and we love you beyond measure, and what happens to this planet is up to you. And also then through the time that I've been channeling, the idea of a punishing God and one who will send you into hell and torture you and your children forever. Kryon has said over and over, that is a dysfunctional God. That's not the Creator. That's a God that you made up. That is your dad, by the way. So God then becomes a dysfunctional father, which is totally against all of the logic we would have of who the Creator is. The Creator is not a human being. The Creator's consciousness is not human. So to then say the Creator is decided that you didn't do a good job, and that you're going to be punished, and that you're going to be wiped out, and you're going to start again, is out of a fiction that has been created because we've been trained into it. And can I say it? I'm very, very sorry to say it, and I shouldn't say it because too many are listening. But that is the basis of so much of the doctrine of the planet, of punishing God, who is looking at whether you're good or bad. Do you realize that's Santa Claus? That is the children's story that Kryon said we have been given. And now it's time for the adult story. You are magnificent because you are a piece of God. You have the Creator inside. You should know better than to believe for a moment that the Creator, that source from which you are part of, would ever give anything but love to you. Is that okay to say? Thank you.
How close is full disclosure?
You want to define full disclosure? It has many. It would have many definitions. Let's just go with the simplest one. When are we going to turn on the lights when everybody can realize what's going on, and especially what's been hidden from us? So, I'm at the United Nations in 1997. I believe was the first trip, and I'm there for the first time, and I'm very frightened. I'd never been to New York before. Invited there now to channel 7 times. This was my first time. I had never been east of here, actually, Midwest. And I was about ready to, as a California young man at that time, going to New York City. And of course, all I had was the movies to decide what New York City was going to be like. And I was sure I'd be mugged as soon as I got off the airplane. Then I met people, by the way, in the East Coast afterward who didn't want to come to California because they were afraid the Indians would get them. So, we're a product of our movies and all of these things. I'm in New York, not feeling comfortable. By the way, that's changed. I love New York now. Not feeling comfortable. Everything is new. And I'm about ready to channel. And I'm taken into the United Nations and put into Committee Room 6. Now, the channeling is done for delegates and guests, you can't buy a ticket. And so in that place, there were delegates, and I'm looking around. I am out of my element completely. I'm an engineer. It's not there. And Kryon starts to channel. And you can hear this. It's on my website. And he says 2 things. Not immediately, but within the channels. The channels were not that long. And the 2 things were this. Number 1, there should be a non-voting Indigenous Council of Wisdom at the United Nations. And that was something that was actually tried later by those who had heard this. They couldn't get it together, and this is also human nature, because the indigenous they had selected wouldn't work with each other. Sorry, it's just the way it is. But it was actually tried. The idea is this, that the ancients have wisdom that we don't have today. They don't need to vote, which means you don't have to have the politics involved, but at least they should have a voice in what to do. Absolutely, that makes so much sense. The second thing, and I'll never forget it, governments, tell the people what you know about the ETs. That was the second one. So you know that there's stuff hiding, much. One of the biggest questions, and this has not been anything that has been brought up, but it's something I teach. People would ask this, they say, if the galaxy is teeming with life, if they're out there, why haven't we met them? Pretty good question. There's actually something called the Fermi paradox, named after Enrico Fermi, where it was in 2018, where they actually had come to the decision, wise men had come to the decision, that there's nobody out there, because we would have met them by now. It's the same thing. So here's what Kryon says. You are the new kids on the block. You are immature. And you're not going to have anybody land on the White House lawn and say hello until you won't destroy them. You're too dangerous. How about that? What would happen right now if that was done? If we had somebody come and land on the White House lawn? Obliteration. You know this is true. We are dangerous. We are kids with toys. That's why they're not here. Not the mature ones, not the ones. And also Kryon says we are protected from the riffraff. Means there's a lot out there that would come and want to do other things to us and have never been able to. So there's a lot there to know. I guess that for a long, long time now, the indigenous saw them. The indigenous saw them. We went to Lake Titicaca. This is very well known for this. And of course, Michelle has been there, has studied the portals. But we will ask them, you know, have you seen any UFOs? And they look at you like you're nuts. Like say, you know, well, yeah, the runway's right over there. Of course we have. This is the kind of answers we get in these places where, yeah, for hundreds and hundreds of years. And what Kryon was saying, maybe it's time you knew you weren't alone. Full disclosure will happen at the right time when we have the maturity and the consciousness that we won't destroy them.
What is the purpose of COVID-19 experience?
You know, that was actually answered a couple times, yesterday and today in the channel. The purpose was to bring us to a point that we could not have been to otherwise, to get us to change certain things that would never have changed. Do you understand? Is that a double negative? Things are happening here that will absolutely change the way we deliver our news, what the realization of a lot of people have. It's part of what was just on the screen with Michelle. And she brought it to this point. I mean, there's going to be things that are going to crawl out of the woodwork that are going to be too scary to see, and you're going to say, well, the world's coming to an end because of that. And then they'll say, oh, no, excuse me, that's always been there. We just didn't know about it. Those are the things that are going to start coming out of the woodwork because of COVID-19. We're going to see this explosion that's happened to children. You remember two things that Kryon has predicted? Two of the biggest things that he's predicted are not necessarily here yet, but almost, and you can feel them, and they're coming. One was the exposure of sexual slavery of children. And Kryon says it's bigger, and you had no idea. It's huge, and you have no idea. Michelle has mentioned it, I have mentioned it. When we travel, we see pictures in the airports. You know, have you seen this child? Have you seen? You don't see this here. We have perhaps it's still here, but it's just not as open. And so it's all over the world. They're actually, I mean, I have a hard time talking about this, but can you imagine farming, young farming, having a birth farm where you would give birth to the young girls and they'd come to an age and be used and sold. They were born for that. And then their use-by date, probably 17, and they would disappear. And you think that I am projecting that? No, because there are women who have escaped from those farms and are starting to talk. Can you imagine something like this? Kryon says, where does the funding come from for that horror? And Kryon says, you won't believe it. And when you see it, and I don't know what that necessarily means, but it might be from our leaders, it might be from the most respected people who have money on the planet, I don't know. But here it comes. That is what I'm looking forward to. Here it comes. COVID is going to push the envelope on that one. The other one was the fall of inappropriate big pharma. Those who keep us sick for money and know there are cures and they put them in the drawer. Unconscionable. In my opinion, that's going to be revealed. And it might be, Kryon says, it could be a movie. It could be something else. And it's coming. I think COVID is going to push the envelope for that as well. The astrology we're seeing, the things that are coming in our face are going to stir the pot. So I think that's the reason right now. Meanwhile, you and I get through this with benevolence, compassion, kindness. There's energy in those things that are going to save our lives.
How do you stay positive around negative people that you have to interact interact with, and the example is the working environment.
You know, you can't get away from a working environment. You lose your job. I mean, the idea that you can just cast them away and get another job is not practical. It isn't. And so Kryon has said many times, don't be unequally yoked. It says, meaning if you have friends or family or whatever, don't let them influence you to the place where they're going to drag you down. It's better than to remove yourself than to have that. But when you're at work, you've got another puzzle. You have somebody coming in that's always negative, or there's always gossip, and you see everything they say is a downer, as they say. Getting through that one is not as easy, but I'll tell you, I think even Marilyn and Joy would teach a class on that one. There are ways of staying positive in the midst of negativity. We have those tools, folks, and it doesn't mean running away from the other people. You can sit in it and not have it affect you, and what you say back in kindness and that doesn't then enforce what they have. Pretty soon they realize, number one, you're not listening and you're not on board with what they're doing. So some of them just don't talk to you anymore. Or some of them will come to you and say, what have you got? I want to know what are you thinking? Because you seem to be like not as disturbed as I am. I'm in trouble. And they'll admit it. I'm negative. I'm in trouble. I don't like this world. I don't like myself. I don't like anything. And pretty soon you'll be saying, well, let's talk. What do? Kindness, benevolence. You think differently. We have ways of getting through this. I'm thinking of those right now in this room who work at Silent Unity. You got one there? Who else works at Silent? Okay. Imagine what they have to go through. 24 hours a day. You have 24 hours a day with prayer requests, and also not all of them, many of them come in person. So you got a phone call and you hear it all. You hear some of the worst stuff you've ever heard, and you listen and you listen and you listen. And how many hours of that can you take? And the answer that they would give is bring it on, because they know how to shield themselves with benevolence and kindness and love. And it's almost like that is the tool that is used. They're doing it. So it's even worse than being at work with somebody who's negative, because they have to have the brunt of all of this. You're warriors of the light, girls. Thank you for what you do here.
Next question, is creativity a function of the divine spirit?
It really is. Creativity is absolutely a function of the divine spirit. The most creatives we have. I spent my life with creatives. Before I got into Kryon, I had a recording studio for 15 years, and all I did was work with composers. And that's where I learned so much about the humans. I fell in love with all of them almost, because they all had the same attribute. It's that the creatives seem to ooze these things that we all want so badly. Painters and all. By the way, there's a frustration level too in a lot of them, because they are creatives. Sometimes they're not linear. And then here we go with the linearity of having to be in a family that keeps telling them to get a job and not be creative. And you want to be a painter? Get a job. Come on, forget it. You want to be a poet? Forget it. That's frustrating. That's another story. But boy, the creatives, I absolutely feel that the ones who are so creative are touching the face of God when they paint, when they compose. I've seen things in my studio I could not ever believe, and it was channeled. Absolutely channeled. We were doing a movie one time. We get these cues, which are just pieces of film, where composers have seen them, and they have the orchestra ready, and then we do the compositions for the cues, and that becomes the movie's music. This was a long, long time ago. And one of them was forgotten, and we have the composer there. He has the orchestra there. And you have, in order to get anything for the orchestra to play it, there's arrangers that have to, and transcribers that are involved in writing the music and getting it out to the podiums and all. Long story. If you don't understand music, it's a little more than you think. And one of the cues was forgotten, and here comes this piece of film, and he had written nothing. And it was an important piece because it was a romantic thing. We looked at the film, and it was just two people reacting, and didn't think anything of it. And those cues that we see they're in black and white. They got pencil stripes through them, so it's not very elegant. And he said, "Let's give the orchestra a break." So he took typical break is 10 minutes. He took 5 minutes and scribbled something down and handed it to those who do the transcriptions of the various keys and the music. The musicians have to play in because they're all written in different staves. And so we came back from lunch, and we recorded the cue, and we watched the film clip that we had been given. I can't tell you my reaction to this. Out of this guy in 5 minutes came the most beautiful melody and the most wonderful sonorities that the violins were playing and all of these things. And I realized at that moment, I just saw pure channeling. You ask him, where does that come from? And he says, oh, I've always been able to do that. And you realize, I'm looking at a channeler. That's creative. If you've seen the ones who can paint and sing and all the things and poetry, they're so beautiful, absolutely linked to the divine soul. Usually old souls, by the way, are the ones that are most creative.
And I actually think every person has creativity abilities. I don't want to limit it to just musicians, artists, painters, sculptors. There's so many forms of creativity. And while the question said, is it a function of the divine spirit? I want to take it one step further to ask Lee, what are the things that block creativity and what are the things that enhance creativity?
Well, you can name them. Kryon has his 10 channels with them. Fear makes them go away. Absolutely puts them on the floor. You just don't have any creativity. It's all gone. The derivatives of fear, anxiety, negativity, make a list. It's not that hard, is it? And it steps on creativity. You can ask somebody who is creative when they're in trouble, what happens? Or if they have some fear, what happens? And it all goes away. That ought to tell you, where it comes from. Last question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I've been seeing repeating numbers since 2007. Can you tell us anything about that?
You're not alone. Numbers are a language. And there are so many systems of numerology on the planet because it was recognized as a language. In other words, they mean things. Michelle uses the Chaldean. I have taught the Tibetan. And they're different. But the key is this, is that numbers are a language. And when you start putting them together with other numbers, they mean more things and other things. It's a language. And it's fascinating. It was Pythagoras, thank you, that was so enamored with numerology. He became a numerologist, this Pythagoras. That got me interested, by the way, because I thought, wow, this guy was not weird. Because he was logic like me, in the early days. Now, of course, I'm not logic, but I'm woo, everybody knows that. Seeing numbers on a regular basis, I want you to write them down. What are they? Many of them, people say, are master numbers. And this is where not Monika, you're Monika, I'll get this straight. This is Marilyn over there. You both have M names, I get confused. Marilyn is part of this and has and Joy and Marilyn actually together do a double digit every single month, and where they talk about the numbers and what they mean for that day and things like that. So this, again, what I'm just doing is exposing you, if you haven't heard it before, numbers are a language, a real language that is not being really truly acknowledged, but it's ancient. It's very ancient. And the farther back you go, you realize that the ancients knew, and they had their systems, and that's what we're looking at today. So write them down. And then, if you really don't understand what you're seeing, probably you're going to see the same numbers over and over. There's a pattern, and the numbers are trying to tell you something. Get off your butt and do something, like that, just little messages. Great. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to say do something. Okay. What are we doing? What does it say we're doing now?
We have Amber.
Oh, wonderful. Dr. Wolf. Okay,
Yeah.
and then we have a break after Dr. Wolf.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for your questions.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.